Monday, July 17th, and this is Geeknights. Tonight we move toward science fiction for a bit when Scott talks about the first of the Lensman books while I talk a bit about the Difference Engine.
Let's do this.
If you notice a strange noise in the background today, it's because we've left the air conditioning on due to the fact that despite the sun having gone down, it is still a 100 billion degree night.
Warm today.
Warm yesterday.
Even warmer today.
Yeah. In fact, it's so hot that I was at work today, and I was listening to a bunch of podcasts, which I'll get to because I got a lot to say about the podosphere.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Great.
I got a little manifesto here. But I was at work, and I'm listening to my iPod, and I'm typing, and I'm drinking something, and suddenly my computer turns off. And I think, uh-oh, is my computer broken? Did the power go out? But my brain says, you're hearing music. The power is not out.
Were you listening to it on your iPod or your computer?
iPod.
Ah.
Now, of course, then I look to my left, and my telephone, which is super digital, is still on and working.
Wait. Is it a VoIP or?
No, but it's a
just
special...
an internal digital phone network. And
Yeah,
then
like
analog lines out.
Yeah, it's like pre-voice over IP.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So then I look back and I look up and I realize, hey, all the lights went out. And yeah, the power was out.
Woot! Blackout.
Yeah, it was.
That's actually one of the shticks at my work when I was there. Is they'd be like, "Is he gonna get a blackout? Blackout?" they had a joke about blackouts.
The funniest thing was it went out, and when I realized the power was out, almost immediately, someone like 2 cubes over goes, "Son of a," and then someone else
Didn't save his work.
and then someone else says, "Fuck it, I'm going home."
Good thing we bought UPSs just the other day.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go buy some more.
Yeah, we're gonna buy like 4 UPSs and stick them on everything.
Yeah, that's cool because then there'll be less excuse to not do Geek Nights.
Yep.
Because we at the worst, if we can keep the networking equipment on. No, if we'll just turn the networking equipment off. We'll record the podcast on my laptop. Hopefully the battery on it won't die, and then we'll plug the networking equipment in, power it up on the battery, connect with the wireless or wire with the laptop.
Yep.
Upload it, and then turn everything back off with the 5-minute UPS.
It would have to be one fuck of a power outage for us to not be able to use our cable modem.
It really would.
Yeah.
Especially, for the cable company would have to die, wouldn't?
Yep. The thing is, it was weird. It was a power distribution problem because for all of you who don't live in downstate New York like we do, we're on the edge of... Remember when California had those rolling blackouts and all those problems?
Mm-hmm.
New York State is getting real close to that.
Maybe we should build a power plant.
Oh, yeah, but instead we have people protesting the power plant we have right here.
But wait, all right, so what if we gave them what they wanted and we got rid of that power plant? What would we have?
Well, we'd have fucking chaos. That's what we'd have because the power would stop.
Oh, geniuses those people are.
Yeah. But seriously, downstate New York is pretty much at capacity for electricity, so power outages are becoming more and more common, and if anything happens to any of the power plants around here, Geeknights might be in trouble for a week or two.
Yeah, but think about it, man. Just a few rods of some metal in a big box, a big cement box. The power is now perfect.
Yep.
All we need is a freaking metal in a box, and we're fine with some water flowing through it.
All right, anyway, now, the reason I was listening to music is because, I was listening to my iPod at least, because I finally decided to listen to a bunch of podcasts. Now that we have the Mac all set up, finally.
And Rim finally learned the lessons that I learned when the iPod Nano came out and I first discovered podcasting.
Yeah, so I found 20 podcasts that looked good. And I subscribed to all of them. And I
looked good? They didn't sound good.
Based on their text descriptions.
They didn't sound good, I bet.
Now, one thing is, I found that all the educational ones I subscribed to so far are really good. In fact, I want to plug the 12 Byzantine Emperors podcast, which is just discussions of 12 different emperors of the Byzantine, a.k.a. the Eastern Roman Empire.
All right.
It's so far fascinating. However, all the other podcasts I subscribed to were varying levels of ass.
How much ass?
I'm not going to name names because a couple of them I listened to are kind of big names, but I subscribed to a bunch of anime and video game podcasts. The video game ones were all unmitigated asshole. They were just quiet, nerdy nerds barely talking about video games that they don't even know much about. Like one guy was talking about Grand Theft Auto, and he didn't even know who made it.
What do you mean?
Like he was mentioning like publishers of games, but then he said the wrong publisher and he didn't know who made Grand Theft Auto.
It's developed by Rockstar, but it's published by Take-Two Interactive.
Yeah, and it was just kind of...
I know that, and I haven't played Grand Theft Auto since Grand Theft Auto 1. Well, London expansion pack, but even so.
Listening to these podcasts was like watching the first 15 minutes of Napoleon Dynamite. It's just painful.
Yeah, that's basically the thing I got from podcasts. I mean, I felt bad because, podcasting feels like blogging. Like it's this big amateur medium full of all sorts of interesting, non-professional, non-big media people making good stuff. But in the end, after, most amateur shit, 99% of it is ass.
Yeah, well, webcomics are the same way. I mean, there's the big names, and then there's all the good comics. And then for every good comic, there are 100 bad ones.
Let's see, how many podcasts do I actually still subscribe to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and one of those is like a temporary, I'm checking it out, so 14.
2 of the ones I subscribe to have already pod faded.
Yeah, let's see how many of these are professional. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6...
Yeah, I'm sure everyone wants to hear you counting on the air.
So half the podcasts I listen to are not amateur, and half of them are.
Yep. Now, the anime ones didn't fare much better. So far, the only anime-related podcast I can at all stand to listen to are Geeknights, which I do listen to a portion of every episode now, just to make sure that every audio's okay and everything's going fine. And
I listened to a few episodes, and they kind of entertain me, even though I know what
yeah, surprisingly, when I listen, it actually is kind of cool, because one, I'll forget things that I said, or Scott said a bunch of stuff that
would be the best, if I could somehow forget Geeknights, anything I said, and then listen to all of it.
Or, like, Scott will say stuff to me on the show, but I'm not actually listening because I'm busy, like, writing or getting ready for the next bit or something. And then I listened and it was like, oh, Scott said something really cool.
Yeah, I say things all the time. You just don't pay attention.
Because most of them are kind of meh.
You suck, Mr. Meh.
But then Anime World Order, which is the only other anime podcast I found that doesn't suck so far.
I have one video anime podcast besides Anime World Order that I subscribe to, which is animepodcast.net, a.k.a. That's as close as I can get to pronouncing it.
I don't know. I can't deal with video podcasts because I don't have time to sit and watch
That's
everything.
The thing is the video podcasts I do are all short. It's got to be like less than 5 minutes. So it's the equivalent to watching something on YouTube,
Yeah.
It's like it's basically someone who I know is going to keep posting the same kind of thing, and it's going to be short. If it's like an actual show, forget it. It's too much.
Yeah, but anyway, to move on a bit, because we're trying to rein in the episode length back to what it originally was.
Yeah, because we've been getting episodes that are like an hour and a half, a little over an hour, and we really need to bring it back to 45 minutes because we have the maximum Libsyn account, and we got dangerously close to filling it.
Yeah, also the fact that I think if we go long, just out of course, we'll end up doing kind of a haphazard treatment of topics that would better be served by doing multiple episodes.
Yes, and also, we have, there's a bin of stuff to talk about and a bin of stuff that's talked about.
Yeah, we talk every weeknight.
So if we have a bin that's, one item in the bin is pretty big, it's better to chop it up and use it for 2 weeks instead of just making one big, long episode 1 week.
Yeah.
Because that way the bin doesn't run out as quickly.
Because it hit us once way back when we were reviewing anime for a while, before con season.
Mm-hmm.
And then we reviewed like 2 or 3 shows in an episode, and then we ran out of new shows to talk about because we didn't space it out, and we probably could have covered all those shows in better depth by breaking it up more.
Yep. So that's what we're going to do, whether you like it or not.
Also, we're really going to try to cut back on the news section because Geeknights is basically turned into the first half is just twit with Rim and Scott, and then the second half is the show.
Yeah, so with the new edition of the Geek Back segment, which is going to come in like 10 seconds, we are going to just reduce
9,
to 1 news
8,
and
7,
2 things of the day.
6, 5. Well, I guess we're doing it early then.
Yes, we are.
All right, Geek Back.
Ahead of schedule, the Geek Back for today is from Robert, who is the awesome guy in the Army. And he says, "Hello again, Rim and Scott. To begin, I would like to say I'm still loving your shows, but I still wish you talked more about comics." Well, I guess that's a good thing because, I always seem to think that people might be like listening to our show and then getting tired of it and stop listening, but if he's still loving our shows, that's cool.
Also, this Thursday, we're going to talk about a comic.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah.
I always screw. It's because Anime Club was on Thursday back at RIT.
I know, but Wednesday night, the Wednesday episode of Geeknights, so we're going to talk about a comic. We already recorded it. Now y'all were talking on Monday night's episode about how Firefox works on all the websites. This is mostly true. However, I have found that government-related websites I can't use while I use Firefox.
You're totally right, and we didn't even think to say anything about that because actually I run into that a lot in New York State because there are a bunch of websites where you can look at New York State laws and submit forms, and none of them work at all in Firefox.
I forget if we discussed this on the show or in the forum or somewhere about, why open document formats were important. Because, if you don't have an open document format, then it's basically government forcing you to choose, a particular piece of software in order to get things that should be free because your tax money paid for them. It's kind of like if the government uses this, then that means you have to use this software. It would be the same as if the government made a road that only a Ford car could drive on. So a government making a website that only an Internet Explorer can work on is equally bad. And I would submit that if I had more money and a lawyer, if I encountered a government website that did not function in every single web browser that exists and follows the standards for websites, that I would sue and say, hey, you're.
Now, the thing is, I think he's talking probably more about internal government or military, internet kind of sites where, if they give you the computer and they give you IE, they can really kind of do that. But
that is true.
The one thing I'll say about that is that the military, when it comes to technology,
is relatively smart. At least it seems to me, but I don't know. I've not been in the military.
It seems that from what I can gather, because I have a lot of friends in the military. Actually, they're ones that Scott doesn't know. They're the other crew I hang out with, but at conventions. And from the military seems to move very slowly in adopting widely technology, at least technology that we would care about. There are other kinds of technology they seem to adopt rather quickly, maybe hastily even. But it seems like very slowly they will lumber toward whatever is the most efficient thing, and I wouldn't doubt for a second that eventually the military will lumber toward open source.
Yeah, it seems to be slowly going that way. The military, in their search to, find whatever gives them some sort of combat advantage, I guess, at least that's what it seems like they want. They're pretty much willing to try anything, and they actually seriously check out what works the best for them.
Yeah, look at back during the, not prohibition, but integration and segregation. The military is one of the first organizations to say, all right, whatever, we're mixing you all together because it's stupid to separate you, and now go kill.
Exactly, when they're looking for some armor, and they go to all the companies that make armor and say, hey, what do you got? And of course, there's probably some bribing and corruption in there, but if you take that out of the equation...
Yeah, and you can't, that's everywhere.
Yeah, they seriously try to figure out what's the best, for the money, and, they check shit out. So also, let me finish his email, it's kind of short. This really ticks me off because I hate the times I have to use Internet Explorer while on government computers. So when I have to use it on my personal computer, I hate it so much more. I'm with y'all on your feelings about Firefox versus Internet Explorer. Sincerely, Robert from the Army.
Well, fight the good fight and hang on. Maybe someday in the next 20 years or so, they'll move toward Firefox.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know much about the, detailed organization of the U.S. Army, but is there like a division that deals with IT stuff that, or is it contracted out? Or, there's got to be someone you can talk to or something.
Yeah, I should ask some of our friends
even
about
if
that.
you're not trying to convince them or switch them over, you could at least discuss it with them. Be like, hey, question them out.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
All right.
What does the government IT guy think about Firefox? Does he even know it exists?
Yeah, but anyway, thanks for your email. Now that we're doing this Geek Back, we're going to actually probably read a lot of the feedback we get. So if you have anything to say to us, send it in.
We just got one. I think it's good for tomorrow, even though it's kind of long.
I don't know. I got one for tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Then maybe it'll be delayed a week. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. So we also have some news. And it's Monday, so I don't feel bad doing a tech twit news.
Okay. What's the news?
You want to do it? Because this is the one you wanted
I don't
to
have
do.
the webpage open.
Neither do I.
Awesome.
Great. All right. The long story short is this: the individual story doesn't matter because the base of this, the crux of this, is something that happens all the time. A major company has a problem, or maybe is starting to lose market share to open source things. So the first thing they do is blame open source for their trouble, or
they run negative ad campaigns.
They spread some FUD about open source. I'm sure you all know what FUD stands for.
It's fear. I found the story.
All right, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I actually did a speech about FUD at RIT when I took a communications class where I was public speaking and all that.
All right, so I think the first paragraph of this thing pretty much sums it up. McAfee.
Yeah, I've always heard McAfee.
Yeah, hackers have borrowed the same open source development techniques used to build Firefox, Apache, and Linux as they collaborate on malware projects, a security company's researchers claim Monday. All right, McAfee.
You know what?
I want everyone to go to our forum and see the thing I wrote to Classic Bry about the history of software development and the original hackers. People don't seem to realize all computer programming was open source until the 70s. You know, from the early days at MIT up until the 70s, all software was open source.
In fact,
not open source was like a crazy idea.
Yeah, like I remember watching in my history of computing classes a lot of documentaries, and we read a lot of articles written by, early computer hackers and early computer programmers. Without exception, like one of them wrote about how one of his friends or someone in the computer club at MIT had the idea, like he was trying to sell a program, and all of his friends just kind of laughed at him like he was an idiot.
Yeah, the word hacker comes from the MIT Railroad Club. I think I forget the exact name of it, but because people would, they would be in their little room working on their little model trains all day, hacking away on, because you're sitting under this big table hacking away on the train tracks. That's why they called them hackers. But those were the guys who also did a bunch of computer stuff, and they would take their source code and post it up on the wall for people to see and to share and to learn from. Hackers and people like that have been doing this as long as computers have existed.
Yep, and I mean, hacking doesn't just apply to computers. I mean, people hack things all the time. If you're in an elevator...
Well, yeah, I don't want to talk about, the semantic definition of hacking, the etymology.
Hacking, cracking, white hat, black hat.
Yeah, that's a whole separate discussion.
Ass hat.
The point is that the open source development techniques have been around far longer than Firefox, Apache, or Linux. They've been around longer than the closed source development techniques.
Also, to extend their analogy and thus destroy their argument by means of what is almost a straw man, they blame, they say, these botnet people use the same techniques that were used to make Firefox, blah, blah, blah. You know what? The U.S. military uses many of the same techniques that were used by the Nazis in World War II.
Uh-oh. Godwin alert. Woo! Woo! Godwin, incoming Godwin. Watch out. We need a special Godwin alert sound effect.
I was thinking about that as you were making those noises.
Yeah, that's definitely... Minds think alike,
Yeah, well, real soon I'm going to start fiddling with the Mac.
Like Hitler and Goebbels.
Maybe I'll take some clips from the Mr. Hilta sketch. Things of the day.
Thingy.
All right. Now, this might seem like a strange thing of the day, so I'm going to give you the background story as to how this came about, and then I will reveal my thing of the day. So, Scott and I this previous weekend, that was the first weekend we've had in almost all summer where we were free. We had absolutely no obligations, responsibilities, or plans.
There was no convention. There was no one coming to our house. We weren't going to anyone's house. We didn't have any family obligations. There was no holiday. There was nothing.
So we
didn't have any errands to run that were urgent.
Yep. Thus, we made a list and we drove up the road into all the other towns, went to every store we needed to do, did everything. On the way back, I stopped at a liquor store because I needed to replenish my supply of liquor.
Great, which I don't drink.
Yeah, not so much replenish as add to, because I was missing a lot of key components like vermouth. I didn't have any vermouth, but that's beside the point. So we go into the liquor store, which is a massive, high-class, nice store. I mean, I like the place a lot. And while I'm in the port section picking up wine, Scott asks where the Mad Train wine is.
Yeah, Mad Train as in Mad Dog or Night Train or Thunderbird. The stuff that winos buy in large quantity that's mostly sugar. And, yeah.
Yep,
I wanted to see what it looked like because you never really see that shit.
He actually wanted to ask the guy at the store, where's the stuff the winos buy?
Yeah, I mean, a big box of cheap wine.
Yeah, but I mean, the place doesn't even carry stuff like that. But we call it Mad Train wine. That's our catch-all, because in Kingdom of Loathing,
a game we don't play anymore,
but was really fun while
for about
it lasted,
a week,
alcohol was a big part of that game. It was a kind of an MMO text adventure thing. And the cheapest primary alcohol was Mad Train wine, a play on Mad Dog and Night Train.
We assume.
Yeah, I'm reasonably certain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then on the way home, we were talking about, all those wino-type wines and making fun of it, and we decided the next time we drove past a seedy liquor store, we're going to go in and get some just to laugh at it.
I think we might actually just get a bottle of Thunderbird wine.
So
there it is, Thunderbird wine.
So then, I don't think we'd ever drink it. No. That stuff can't be good.
I might take like a spoonful of it just to see.
Yeah,
I wouldn't drink it though.
Well, I remember we both took a spoonful of that Pusser's rum, and it tasted like unmitigated poison.
I think it needs to be converted into grog.
Yeah, we'll make some grog at some point.
I won't be drinking that.
Got to take a tot of it at least. Then you can say you're a sailing man. Or
but
a pirate.
I'm not a sailing man. In fact, I've never sailed.
You're a software pirate.
Yeah.
Well, you were.
Yeah, I was. Now I'm all open source. I don't pirate anything.
Anyway, so we had a long discussion about wino wine. Then we get home. I come up to my room, and what's the top story on Fark? How to make cheap wine. And in the article was pretty good, but the first link posted in the Fark thread, which I'm already laughing about the fact that our lives are topical to Fark, is how to make prison wine. Quite literally, how to make sangria in the turlet.
You can make sangria in the turlet.
Of course, it's shank or be shanked.
Of course.
And apparently, in prison, the way people make wine, they don't do it in the turlet so much, but what they do is they'll take a trash bag, they fill it with all the fruit juices they can get their hands on, all the sugar they can get their hands on, and socks filled with moldy bread. And these guys from this link on the internet did it and tasted it. And
it's like pretending to be in prison.
Yeah, only without all the, fun prison rape.
Exactly.
Yeah, so follow this Fark thread and the story and the first link in the Fark thread if you want to learn a lot about things you should never ever drink.
Yeah, if there's anything ever that you should not try at home, this is it.
Yeah, prison wine is pretty much the bottom right there.
Oh, but continuing our theme of you shouldn't do this is my thing of the day.
I think you should do this, because I was a punk kid like that once.
Oh, indeed. But I also only suggest doing it if you are very good in the skills.
These guys weren't so skilled.
They were moderately skilled.
Yeah, they were, but they fell all over their asses.
Yeah. So apparently there was this water park that was abandoned. It looks a lot like Action Park to me, but it's not Action Park because I found some abandoned pictures of Action Park on the internet, and this is not it because there was one slide that both parks have, but the slide at this park was blue and yellow, and Action Park it was red and yellow. So it's not Action Park. This is a bunch of punk kids who sneak into this abandoned water park, and they rollerblade on the dried up water slide.
It's pretty badass.
While it's crazy dangerous, crazy stupid, it's crazy awesome.
Also, when I watched it, it was really awesome, and it really brought me back to my days as a punk rollerblading kid, even though I could do like 2 tricks.
Yeah.
I just mostly rollerbladed around for fun, and every time I tried to do tricks, I'd hurt myself, and then I'd give up immediately.
Yeah, these guys seem to have, a moderate average level of trick skills. They grind on the side of the slides. They can jump from one slide to the other, which is probably the coolest part of the video.
But actually, the music in the video
is way cool. If anyone knows what song they're playing in this video, I want to know because it's a good song.
Yeah, because I really don't feel like doing research to find it, but it was a song that I'd never heard before, and I'd never heard anything quite like it before.
Yep.
I mean, it's similar to some of those hip-hop type remixes where they take an old song and they sample it and they remix it to hell and make it awesome, but I don't know. I like it.
I like it, and I want to know what it is, so someone tell me. And also, these kids are good kids.
Yeah, I want to see more
and there's no
Kid
belly
spirit.
man coming to beat them up.
He was on his way. Just took him a while, that belly and all.
I know, right?
Yep. So anyway, today is Monday, which is science, technology, gadgetry, Linux, computers, and science fiction.
Yes, we have decided to add science fiction to Monday.
Mostly because the only other place it could fit is Wednesday or Thursday. Both days, we already have far more content than we'll ever get to.
Yeah, and it really only fits in on Monday. And I mean, I think we did a Thursday on Star Wars a long time ago.
Yeah.
But if we start really doing more sci-fi stuff, I mean, there's room on Monday to put that. There isn't room on Thursday.
Yeah, and Wednesdays are our fullest day.
And also, for us being super do everything geeky geeks that we are, we're not so much sci-fi.
Well, I am more than Scott.
Yes.
I mean, I loved Firefly. I think Battlestar Galactica, the original and the new one, are both awesome. I absolutely loved The Next Generation and the original Star Trek.
Yeah, see, I don't like... There's pretty much almost no science fiction television shows that I like. Like, the stuff that is essentially, just stories that happen to be in space or stories that happen to involve crazy technology or the future, I'm generally not always a fan of by
Scott,
default.
what if they made a TV series or a movie based on, like, Stranger in a Strange Land? And it was well done.
See, that's the thing, is stuff that's, like, I really only like, the, quote, hard sci-fi. Like, Twilight Zone, some of it is hard sci-fi, stuff like that. Stranger in a Strange Land is a real hard science fiction
Foundation.
book. Yeah. And I also like the classic sci-fi, which,
Foundation.
Yeah. The stuff, Star Trek, I really don't like Star Trek.
Yeah, or just like stuff
it
by...
just doesn't do anything for me at all.
Yeah, we both very much like things by, William Gibson, Neil Stephenson.
Well, those are cyberpunk, which is like a subgenre, but...
Yeah, but it's there.
The point is that we're not the hugest super sci-fi nerds like some people, and therefore there's plenty of room on Monday to put a little bit of science fiction that we have.
Yep, especially since we're reading a lot more now that, at least in terms of the podcast, it doesn't take us any extraordinary effort to do the episodes.
Yeah, most of the sci-fi that we'll do will be novels that we have read.
Yeah.
So
today we decided we'll probably talk about both of these again after we both read the other one, but Scott is currently reading something.
Well, I finished it.
Well, you finished the first one of the series, so you can talk about that.
Yep.
And I recently finished a book. They're both very good science fiction, and we'll both just kind of talk about them.
All right.
So you want to go first?
Okay. I read... Ooh, it's the Geeknights book club that we talked about.
Hooray!
I just finished reading Galactic Patrol by E.E. Doc Smith. Doc is one of those, nicknames and quotes in the middle there. And this is the first book in the Lensman series.
Now, you may or may not have heard of Lensman from the anime. Pretend it doesn't exist for now.
Yes. In the future, we will probably do a giant all Lensman episode with all the books and the anime and the whole thing, but not right now. That'll be for another time.
Yes. Perhaps we'll do it with Anime World Order.
Now, what can I say about this book? Well, it's pretty short, so, even if you're the kind of person who can't handle like a giant book or lots of really hard writing, this is not that. This is very, it's moderately easy to read for any literate adult. It doesn't take long. It reads pretty quickly if you don't, mull over it, which you probably shouldn't have to. And it's enjoyable. It's lacking in, depth and hardcoreness. I expected more of a hard science fiction book, and that's not really what you get. You get more of a space adventure of awesome. It reminds me a lot, actually, of a lot of those manga that we read, like the political ones, like Sanctuary and Eagle. Not because it's political, because it really isn't very political at all, but Lensman is about, a guy who's just badass and awesome and does the smart thing.
Yeah, it seems very rare that characters in things we watch or read will do the obvious smart thing or the thing that we would do or something smarter than we would have even thought to do. It's usually, you dumbass.
Yeah, it's sort of like there's certain things like, normally if you watch a sitcom on TV or any drama, I have a theory, Scott's hypothesis of the drama stupidity hypothesis, in where there cannot be drama without stupidity. Because if everyone is smart, there won't be anything happening to cause drama.
Well, I can think of one exception. Let's say we've got two nations fighting over resources.
Yeah, of course.
They're both smart.
You get my point. Is
yeah.
When
you know what? Drama in the OMG drama sense, as opposed to drama.
Yes, exactly. So,
oh my God, so and so banned me from her live journal because so and so thinks that so and so is cheating on so and so after I read her.
Okay, that's enough of that. When you watch sitcoms and things on TV, and most movies, Hollywood movies, you see characters do things that are stupid, and it pisses you off because, like, why didn't you do this? It was so obvious.
Like in Nana that we just watched an episode of, where a character did something real dumb.
Exactly. Lensman is actually about a guy who can't be stupid. You see, it starts out. Well, let me give you a picture of this universe. You ready? It's a space universe. People can. It's pretty cool, actually. The way they fly through space faster than light is they remove inertia. Like, the spaceships, they take inertia out of the spaceships, and then they go, whee! And they're constantly talking about how they're going to, landing free or, going inert. And the people can go inert and uninert. With they have devices to help them do this. It's not just magic powers. So they're always talking about, like, if you start running, then you take away your inertia, and then you put it back on, you'll still be going forward because the inertia was still from before. So, like, you take your spaceship off, then you go, you remove the inertia, then landing is always tricky, and it's pretty cool when they deal with that in a somewhat, I guess, realistic way. Yeah. But, no, it's a universe where people can fly around real fast from planet to planet, and, there is one civilization called the Galactic Patrol, and it's a relatively new civilization. And there is another civilization called Boscone, or Boscone. I can't really tell because it's a book.
Bosco.
Yeah, Boskone. And basically they're, quote, space pirates, but really they're not space pirates. They're, like in the classic sense, even though they do a lot of space pirating. They're sort of an evil galactic civilization.
Yar, too late I realized me children are me only treasure.
Yeah, Boscone is an old and powerful galactic civilization that is much, much more powerful than the Galactic Patrol, who are the good guys. Now, the story follows Kimball Kinnison, who is a guy who goes to the Galactic Patrol Academy, and he eventually becomes a Lensman, which is the absolute ultimate policeman of the Galactic Patrol you can possibly be. And, the very first chapter is where the guy says, you can't fake being a Lensman because you get this lens from these aliens or whatever. And you'll find out all about that. That would be a spoiler if I told you any more. So you have Lensmen are guys who are perfect in every way. They will not be corrupt, guaranteed. You can trust them, guaranteed. You do what they say no matter what. They will always make the best decision. They're always awesome. They're better than all other people in every way. They can act as judge, jury, and executioner, and you can trust that will be better than any other judge, jury, and executioner that you can find. Guaranteed. It's not, and, there's no drama in the book like where a Lensman has gone bad. No, Lensmen don't go bad, period. They are good guys, the end of story. And they explain like the selection process for Lensman. They weed out any possible bad guy. They're like amazing dudes with the slightest fallibility. Nope, sorry, can't be a Lensman. So yeah, you have this guy Kimball Kinnison. He's a brand new Lensman, and they send him on what's essentially a suicide mission. You see, I told you before that they can't beat the aliens, who are much more powerful than they are. Well, they give him a spaceship that is sort of crazy. Like, it has a very different combat strategy from the standard combat strategy. but the chances of him actually succeeding in destroying or capturing an alien vessel and stealing alien technology is somewhat slim. But it kind of puts him on the fast track. It's like, if you pull this off, you're going to go way up in the Lensman. But if you don't, you're dead. So, of course, being a Lensman, he goes off on this mission. And I don't want to tell you the rest of the plot because there's no point in reading the book.
Yeah, plus we're definitely not reviewing our things now. We're just kind of giving them the once-over.
Yeah, and, I don't want to talk too long. I'm going to end this up pretty quick. But the rest of the book is Kimball Kinnison being awesome as he goes from thing to thing, doing the awesomest thing possible, always pulling off the incredibly amazing thing. And, the reason you want to keep reading is to find out, all right, how the hell is he going to do that? Oh, my God, look what he did. Well, how the hell is he going to do? Oh, my God.
I get the impression.
Or what's he going to do next? Holy crap.
See, I didn't read it at all yet, but I get the impression that it'll feel a lot like the Horatio books in the...
That's the impression that I get, not having actually read a Horatio book.
Yeah, I've read all of them. I've read almost everything C.S. Forester's written.
Mm-hmm. It even has... The guy who's sort of Haynes, who's sort of like the boss, but he's not really the boss. But that doesn't matter. It's sort of like Pellew, he always he always takes care of Kimball. He gives him what he needs. He tells him what he needs to be told, etc., etc. It's way cool.
Yep,
way cool.
I'll be reading it soon, and then hopefully
I can see why all those people were inspired to make Lensman anime and Lensman comic books.
If only they hadn't been. If only they died.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to talk about the Lensman anime, but good fucking God.
Yeah. So Lensman book is definitely the books. Make sure you go to Wikipedia before you read them to find out the correct reading order because.
Yes.
If you look at the books themselves, if you can find them, they're pretty cheap in used bookstores. They will tell you to read them. They'll tell you to first read Triplanetary and then read First Lensman and then read Galactic Patrol. That's sort of not correct. See, Triplanetary and First Lensman were prequels that were made and published later. So it's sort of like you get spoilers if you read those first.
It's like, I think you get a lot more out of Star Wars watching 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3 than watching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Exactly.
Or even Horatio. The order they were written and the order you're supposed to read them is way out of chronological order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lensman books are numbered for you to read them in chronological story order. But really, you should read them in publication order, which is Galactic Patrol, Gray Lensman... I forget, but Wikipedia has it listed. Go to Wikipedia for Lensman and read it, and make sure you read the books in the right order.
Yep.
All right.
So, as I've mentioned a bunch of times, I was reading The Difference Engine.
Dun, 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 by William Gibson.
Yeah, and, oh god, I forget the other author's name. I don't have the book handy, but it's co-written by him and someone else.
Oh, I'll look it up.
Yeah, but it's hard science fiction, but there are basically two ways to tell hard science fiction. There are the stories that have the omniscient narrator, and they're like, there was this civilization, and then this happened, or, follow the broad strokes of the leaders of these countries, or the leaders of these civilizations, and, very epic, wide-scale, wide lens. And then there's the science fiction where you set up the world, the science fiction world you want to explore, and then you explore it by following a character or a few characters through that world on a semi-unrelated plot.
Bruce Sterling.
Yeah, Bruce Sterling.
There you go.
Author of Holy Fire, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a plot that isn't... the plot itself in The Difference Engine is kind of meh. It's just this kind of, skullduggery and adventure. It follows one character for a while, then it kills that storyline, follows a different character for a while, kills that storyline, follows a third character until it ends. But that's really beside the point. The book itself really explores an interesting idea. Now... Babbage and numerous other people throughout history had come up with mechanical means of doing what computers today do, just on a much slower, massive scale. But they came up with, difference engines, machines that could calculate, add and subtract, multiply and divide. There were never really the resources to build any of these machines, and even if they had been built, the theory behind building them, they would have been very difficult, it would have been very engineering intensive. It's still not known if it would be even possible to make an engine large enough to do anything useful, yet still able to function. But regardless of all that, the idea here is, what if Babbage had gotten the funding and the money he needed to build a difference engine, and what if it had worked? And what if the information revolution had happened during the Industrial Revolution instead of, in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s? And it's really just a fascinating look at how vastly different and yet in a lot of ways how the same history would have been. I mean, it puts forth a lot of the ideas that if these things existed, they were so massive and would have taken so many resources that only the old world powers like Britain and France and Japan and China could have possibly built them, which means that all of these nations would have remained powerful through the Industrial Revolution and beyond, instead of what we saw happening where new upstart countries that didn't have a lot of knowledge and technology but had a lot of resources and people eventually overshadowed them. I mean, it's set in a world where the Civil War kind of ended in a truce, and for Britain and France and all these countries, because they had the technology and the information, really worked to make sure countries like America and Germany never unified and never became threats. And it really goes into a lot of theory of computation, Turing machines, and it goes a lot into how different our history would be if meritocracy and science were lauded as opposed to religion and emotionalism and reactionism and all those sorts of things. I mean, it gets to the point where they talk about how the noble classes were kind of abolished and people were given nobility based on their achievements and they weren't hereditary. And little asides, a whole bunch of little things where they'll mention, like, remember the potato famine in Ireland and how Britain and France shipped all those tinned foods over made by machines and saved the day. Little things like that. It's a really fascinating read. I blew through it. It was just, I loved it. I've been very vague on a lot of the details of the book, mostly because, like Scott, I don't want to ruin it for anyone because there are quite a number of twists, and the story itself is pulpy, like very pulpy, but it's very fun. And in addition to that, the fun story really guides you through this world and really shows you all of the amazing things that humans could have accomplished if we'd had the information revolution sooner. And it also really paints a semi-optimistic picture of, now that we're in full swing and the information revolution has been happening for so long, just the heights we can take it to now that, I mean, the machines we've got are billions and billions of times more powerful than what is posited in this book. And yet look at what people could have done with machines even that weak and that unpowerful. It's really
unpowerful.
Yeah, I'm running out of English here because I'm really trying to not ruin anything about this book, because I really recommend anyone who enjoys science fiction or computing or Victorian pulp crap action. All of these are in this book, and it's very much worth reading.
Yeah, Lensman is pretty much like the same thing, just, it constantly just gets bigger and bigger and crazier and crazier. Just a guy flying around in space, pulling off amazing things to fight against the evil space pirates.
I noticed they both definitely have this idea of meritocracy. I mean, the Lensmen are infallible. You take the people who are awesome and you put them in charge.
Well, the Lensmen aren't really, governing. It's sort of...
No, but you put them in, people, you see a Lensman, you go, I'll listen to that guy.
Yeah. It seems to me like in Lensman, it's pretty obvious that the Galactic Patrol, the good civilization, there is never any infighting in the Galactic Patrol. Everyone in the Galactic Patrol, even if they're not Lensman awesome, they're good. They never do anything bad. They don't turn coat. They always do their job really, really well. They're all awesome, good guys, all working on the same team and united. Hurrah. And the bad guys are the ones that have infighting and all sorts of other stuff. But, it's just so many things that you see today, in all sorts of entertainment. If there's a team of good guys, even if it's just two good guys, there's always conflict between everything. They always set up a conflict between every possible character imaginable. And it's just really enjoyable to see, this giant team of awesome, perfectly marching forward towards goodness without anything wrong with them. Just doing the greatest. Haha.
Yeah. Most of the conflict in the difference engine is generally very silly and over the top, and, over the top in a subdued way. It's really hard to explain, but it's kind of, oh, tally-ho, let's go off on the adventure, and we won't die, we're the main characters.
Yeah, the conflict in Lensman is actually while it's sort of fantastic in its spaceness, with aliens and lasers and spaceships and shit, but it's not really like tally-ho. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. See, the real conflict in Difference Engine is much more subtle and not...
We're comparing two books that have nothing to do with each other.
Yes, apples and oranges for the win. But the real conflict, which is very subtle and kind of, you figure it out going on, that it's really Luddites and reactionaries versus science and technology, religion versus technology, idiots versus not idiots. I mean, one of the major pivotal points is that the communists have a very, very big advantage in a world like this because information is so much more free and available that it's much more easy for communist and socialist sympathizers to mobilize, especially back in the turn of the century in the Industrial Revolution when there was a lot of communist sympathy and a lot of people, especially for the working conditions at the time, really probably would have joined any communist revolution if they'd known that one existed. Yeah. There's a lot to the Difference Engine. And actually my favorite part of the whole thing is there are the Industrial Revolution equivalent of data centers. And it's really funny because there's the guys sitting in there and they talk about, it goes into kind of great detail about all the steam and the tubes and the little widgets and pipes and the people wearing they don't let people smoke in there anymore because they realize the smoke in the air interfered with the gears. And it's just really, really cool. Like they talk about gear yards, like my computer has 100 gear yards. And there's a funny scene where one guy who thought he knew about computers was like, yeah, how many gear yards do you have here at, he's at like the government center for computing. And the government center guy says, gear yards, we measure them in gear miles now, boy. There's a lot of little bits like that.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah. So, what does Difference Engine say about Hitler? Woo, 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 woo. Godwin alert. Woo.
Why don't we just play the Monkey Tuesday theme? Hitler.
Oh, God. Don't even start with that.
All right. In the spirit of keeping our episodes somewhat under control, I think we'll stop now. As for the semi-new show format, my last little bit here, any thoughts, any feedback? What do you think? Do you really want the two newses for us to yell about? Do you want to keep the Geek Night or the Geek Back?
Yeah, we're pretty much doing as we please with our show format, but the show isn't for us. It's for whoever you are listening. So however you want our format to be, you need to tell us by email or forum.
Yeah, I mean, if all of you say you want, I don't know, all Yowie all the time,
then Geek Nights is over. Thank you. Good night.
And that was Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcast, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geek Nights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geek Nights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.